What's up, guys? So let's do a reading lesson, which I've never done before, but I'm going to take a cue from my friend Jabril Malik, also known as SDJ Malik, in terms of how he teaches how to read music. So we're going to take this handy dandy whiteboard, just like SDJ Malik, and I'm going to show you how, because the question is going to be in terms of just like how you read like triplets or 12/8 and turning them from 8th notes to 16ths. Well, let's just start from going just straight up duple, 8th notes to 16ths, right? So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So the thing is, right, you can basically put an extra note in between these notes to make them 16th notes, right? So now, in the space of 1 and 2 and, let's add some 6 notes here also. Okay, so instead of 1 and 2 and, right, it's 1 and 2 and, right? So da 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 da. Okay, so now you can add these 16 notes, like let's put them here, right? So da da instead of da 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 da. Okay, so or just any kind of combination, right? We can put a 16 note here, so it'd be instead of da 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 da, it's da 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 da. Okay, and that's how you'd read 8th notes to 16 notes. So what if it's a 12/8, right, or triplet meter? Okay, so let's look at it like this. Okay, so now we have bump, 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 bump. Okay, just straight up triplet 8th notes. Okay, so instead of going da 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 da, let's put some 16 notes here, right, or here. I'm just doing this randomly, right? So instead of da 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 da, it's da 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 da. Okay, so now you can do any combination, right, to where basically now you can read these notes, right, da 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 da. Whatever combination this is in, just think of it like the first note is always going to be in the same place, da da da. Just add a note in between, right smack in the middle between that first note and the next note, and then you'll have da 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 da. Okay, instead of da 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 da. All right, so that's how you break it down, and that's the most simplest way I can kind of explain it without going into what the actual rhythms are. So try to think of it like this first, especially if you're having trouble, or especially if you're new to reading music. That's the most simplest way to think about it. So good luck, and have fun reading some beats and playing them. What's up, everybody? It's Carl, aka Carl Drum Tech, and today I want to talk about auditioning or not auditioning for a drum corps or independent winter line, because somebody had asked me if you were inexperienced, like let's say you're a high school freshman or sophomore and you're not that experienced, you're not that proficient yet at your skills, should you go out and audition for these groups anyway? Okay, so my answer to that is absolutely 100% yes. You should absolutely go and audition for those groups if this is something that you want to do in the future. If you're really interested in the whole drum corps activity or independent, winter lines and things like that, whether you want to get into it or not, or whether you will hopefully one day want to be able to make it, you should totally go and audition. And here is why. The reason why you should go audition is because when you go, you're going to learn a lot, because what you're going to see when you go there is not only just everybody from all over the place, right? Other drummers, other people who have experience or not have experience show up at those auditions, and then you will see the wide variety of skill levels that attend these auditions. For the most part, I'm sure, depending on the group that you audition for, I mean, there's probably gonna be a lot of people who have a lot of experience compared to the people who don't have as much experience. Or maybe, some open groups and some groups who are not placing as high historically, you might get a little bit of a better mix in terms of just like, there's a lot of people who are really skilled and proficient and experienced, and then a lot of people who are not as experienced or as skilled, right? So you're going to be exposing yourself to other people who are just like you, who are doing the thing that you love and trying to audition for these groups, trying to make these groups. Now, let's say you are a freshman or sophomore. Let's say that even if you do make these groups, you can't number one, let's say you can't have the time to march these groups. Like let's say you're, obviously if you're in high school, you're in a high school program, it's definitely difficult to try to do high school program and an independent program at the same time. Ask anybody who's done it, it's super difficult. It can be done, but it's super difficult. So, but let's just say that is a hindrance. Let's also say another hindrance is you don't have enough funds or finances to be able to march a full tour and afford it, right? Or what about, yes, like I said, you are not skilled enough. The answer is still, if this is something you love, you should go audition anyway, just for the learning experience. Like I said, number one, you're going to expose yourself to other people like yourself who love the activity, and you see all the different skill levels, so you can literally see where you're at, where you line up next to all these people who are auditioning, right? So the other thing you will learn is that when you get up on a drum and they say, okay, cool, the staff says, we're gonna check you out now. We wanna see you in the drum. We wanna see how you play in a line. We wanna see if you can play clean. We wanna see if you've prepared in terms of just like learning the audition material. This is your chance to learn, because the staff is going to give you feedback on what you're doing, how your technique is, what, in terms of just like, what you could be playing better, or, just little tips and tricks to help you get better. Now, of course, in their minds, they're thinking, okay, how can we figure out how can we see if we can mold this person to march the group or not? And how pliable are they in terms of just like, can they adjust and make it in the line, basically, right? But for the most part, you're still going to learn a lot, because you're going to get a lot of information while the staff is doing that for themselves, basically, right? But at the same time, like I said, you're going to get a lot out of it for yourself, just because you get all that information. Now, let's say you are, because there's gonna be moments where maybe if you're not that experienced, the staff is gonna make you sit on the floor and maybe drum on a pad versus drum on the drums, because they're gonna reserve that time for people who they think are gonna make the line and for their veterans to play with them. So, also take that as a learning experience, because you get to play with the line, basically play with another drum line that is not your line in high school, and you get to learn how to play with a bunch of different people, and then you get to also observe like what other people's skill levels are at, try to observe their techniques and see what little nuances you can take. Those are the things that would really help you out in terms of your development. So there's a lot of positives in terms of just like whether you should go audition or not, whether you're going to make it or not, right? So and let's say you do make it and you are unable to march for the various reasons I presented, that's still okay, right? You still know where you're at. You know that, okay, cool, at this age level I can make it, and then next time when I'm finally ready, I know that I am probably going to make this ensemble. So you can take comfort in that. And obviously if they say, okay, cool, like you're definitely not going to make it, but here's some things that you can work on, right? The staff is going to tell you that. Then again, it is absolutely worth it to you to get that feedback, to get that information, okay? So regardless of whether you're going to make it or not, I highly encourage you to go audition for these independent groups, no matter what, just for the learning experience. And here's the thing, if you really want to make the group and you hinge everything on making the group, you can't think like that. You got to think like, okay, no matter what, I'm going to learn something from this situation, okay? So, when you go there, try not to pin all of your hopes on making the line, because, a lot of people go to these auditions, myself included, I definitely felt these feelings too, where I go to these auditions and it's just like all my hopes and dreams are like basically connected to making this group or not. And then if I don't make it, which I've in one of my videos I've described how many times I've got cut and which groups I got cut from. It's definitely a downer in terms of just like, oh man, there's that disappointment of not making the line, not making the group, and then you feel less than other people because you feel like you're a failure, or you feel like you're just not as good as a person. That's not what it means at all. It just means that you're not as proficient, you're not as experienced, you're just not as skilled. And I can accept that when I went to audition and I didn't make it, and they took people who were maybe younger than me, right? Especially like if you want to know what sucks, what really hurts is when you go on audition and you're like, it's your age out year and you don't make it. Like, that's the experience I had. right, in auditioning for like, say, the Santa Clara Vanguard, which I auditioned for my age out year, didn't make it. There was guys who were way younger than me, you know, getting the call to go on the drums, and I was sitting there on the pad and it's like, oh man, I'm like the old guy here, and like, you know, I'm not good enough. And that's okay, right? And the moral of the story is I can still get something out of it, even many, many, many years later, because I can use that disappointment to fuel my determination to succeed in life in general, because this life is a long game. It's not just about Santa Clara Vanguard making it there when I was in my age out year. It was all about the long game in terms of just like, all right, I can take that disappointment, I can take that negative, right, in my life and use that as fuel, as motivation to drive myself to greater heights in life, whether that's in my fitness, whether that's in growing my finances, whether that's in growing my personality to be better socially. Like, there's so many things that you can get better at, and you can use all the failures that you've had to fuel that fire. Because guess what? I mean, you know, I could have made it and then knowing my personality, I could have easily just been like, oh man, I'm so entitled now, like I can do anything, I can make anything, and then I just get such a big head and be cocky, and then like I can feel like I am entitled to everything and I can just get everything, you know, just like that. But that's obviously not the case in life. So what that taught me was like, you're not just gonna, you know, you're not gonna win everything. You're not gonna get everything. Every you know, audition you go to, you're not gonna make every single line you go to. Maybe you're fortunate enough to do that, and that's great. So definitely keep, you know, that pride in the fact that, you know, you are good enough. But at the same time, you have to be humble enough to know that there are going to be a lot of losses in your life, because it's a long life, right? The odds are there's going to be some losses in your life, so you have to be prepared for that. But at the same time, like, if you do lose, if you don't make it, take those losses and use that as fuel and motivation. And I use the term lose and losing very loosely, because I don't want you to think of it like when you go to these auditions as like whether you win or lose. And I think I've mentioned this in one of my other videos, but basically you gotta look at it as like you either win or you learn, okay? So you win in terms of like you make the line, or you don't make the line and you learn. So this goes back to the beginning of my video in terms of just like me talking about how no matter what, you're gonna go there, you're gonna learn something, and it's gonna be very valuable for you. And speaking of value, right? So let's look at the fact that, you know, okay, should you spend money to go audition for a group that you are not totally prepared to march, okay? Or let's say, you know for sure that based on your skill level, you're probably not gonna make this group, so why should I go and audition anyway and pay that audition fee? Well, I think it's still absolutely worth it, because there's so much value, like I said, in going to these auditions and getting information from a staff member who you've never worked with before. And whether you get this information from the high school you're at or at drum corps, you're gonna get different kinds of information from different instructors. And let's say they even say the same thing to you, right? Like the same information. The differences in how they deliver, right, this information is going to click for you in different ways, and reinforces some of the things that you've already learned, and you're going to again get an upgrade in terms of your learning because you're getting this information in a different way. Have you ever thought about how you get information from one person, maybe you don't get it in that moment, but then you get the same information from another person or another staff member. They say the same exact thing, but they say it completely different, and you're just like, oh, now I get what that first person was telling me, right? So if you ever had that moment, that's what it means when you go to different people and they give you the same information, and they deliver it to you in a different way. You get it, like it kind of reinforces what you've already learned, and it helps the learning process overall, okay? So again, it's worth it to go to these drum corps because of the learning that you get. You get exposed to these different voices that deliver information in very unique ways, okay? So, and then just in terms of just like whether you would spend money on this or something else, like let's look at it this way. Look at it as like an investment, right? So you invest money to get this education, right? So it costs money to educate yourself, right? It costs money to go to college. It costs money, the government pays money to have these public schools so you can be educated. No matter what, education costs money. But think of it like this, right? Most people would rather spend money on a new pair of Nikes or a new phone. Like, you know, there's a new iPhone out that's like $1,000. You know, spend money on a video game, you know, cartridge, or, you know, like, you know, some online game that you can buy for your computer. Versus spending money on a book where you can learn something that can benefit you for the rest of your life, and it can be a multitude of subjects that can benefit you, right? I mean, let's just talk about finance. You can buy a finance book and learn how to make more money that's going to benefit you for the rest of your life, right? Versus a pair of shoes, a pair of Nikes, you know, or a video game, or an iPhone that's going to depreciate in value. It's going to cost less, right? Like as these things get older, versus a book that, you know, once you get the information, it's going to serve you for the rest of your life. And let's say it's a finance book, you're going to, like, it can pay for itself and more, right? So you get a book that's like 20 bucks, and then let's say because of the information you gave from that book, over your lifetime, it helped you earn like thousands of dollars. So not only did, you know, that book pay for itself, it gave you a lot more cash versus something that you bought that is valued way less as it gets older. Does that make sense, right? So, you know, think of it like an investment in yourself. So when you go to these auditions, invest in yourself, make it happen. Like, if you don't have the cash, try to find a way to make the cash. And then if you find a way to make the cash, like, you've learned a whole new skill set of making cash when you didn't have any, right? So there's all these positives in making something happen like that, in terms of just like going to a drum corps audition or a independent, you know, winter audition, and just going just to learn, right? And again, it's not about winning or losing, it's about winning or learning. That's the key, okay? So if you don't make it, it's all good. Don't think about the destination of, like, you know, I gotta get to this point, right? Like from point A to point B, and point B is like you making the line. Don't think of it that way. Think of the process of going from point A to point B. That is the most important thing, all right? So, cool. Thank you guys so much if you've been watching this video. Hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of it. If you guys did get a lot of value out of it, hopefully other people get value out of it as well. So please do me a favor and share this video with them. If you guys like the video, please do me a favor and hit that like button. If you guys are not subscribed yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Make sure you subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And I guess I will see you guys next time. And again, thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Good luck at auditions if you guys go and do that. I'm sure you guys don't need it, because you will prepare, you'll learn the audition material, and you're gonna go there, you're gonna have fun, and you're either going to make it or you're gonna learn, and it's all good either way. Spend the money, invest in yourself, always, okay? I'm not saying don't buy stuff that, like, you know, depreciates in value that you would really enjoy, you know, while you have it, but at the same time, don't forgo investing in yourself, right? In favor of buying these things that depreciate in value, okay? So cool. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time, and catch you later.